Christmas. A time for joy, cheer, and of course, really awesome horror. Hi friends, it's me again. Christmas horror is one of my favorite subgenres, holiday horror in general actually, but there's something about Christmas horror with bringing the most joyous time of year with the most horrendous events you can think of that just really gets me. We've talked a bit this month about Christmas and holiday horror movies, so today I wanted to shine a spotlight on some Christmas episodes of some of your favorite horror and horror-adjacent TV shows. So grab that spiked eggnog, hang up that garlic tinsel, and let's unwrap those frights. Okay, so I had to start out with the OG of Christmas horror episodes of television, and that is Season 1, Episode 2 of Tales from the Crypt called And All Through the House. This episode follows a woman who kills her husband on Christmas Eve to claim his life insurance, but little does she know, an escaped axe-wielding lunatic dressed as Santa Claus is on the loose and really has it out for the ladies. As she struggles to cover up her crime and survive the killer, her own greed and misdeeds come back to haunt her in a grisly twist of fate. This episode works so well because it masterfully combines dark humor, suspense, and a complete story. The fact that All Through the House is considered by many people to be one of the best episodes of Tales from the Crypt and probably one of the most memorable, and it's the second episode in the first season is really telling to how awesome Tales from the Crypt is on a whole, and I really wish they would bring it back, but also I kind of don't, because I don't want it back in 2024 because it wouldn't be the same and life is hard. Anyway. This one is not streaming at the time of recording, but you can rent it on Amazon.
No!
Naughty or nice?
The next one I want to talk about is the X-Files Season 6, Episode 6, called How the Ghost Stole Christmas. Mulder's being typical believer Mulder and convinces Scully to investigate a seemingly haunted house with him on Christmas Eve. Inside, they encounter two mischievous, ghostly lovers, played amazingly by Ed Asner and Lily Tomlin, who died in a murder-suicide pact years earlier. The spirits use psychological tricks to manipulate Mulder and Scully, preying on their fears of loneliness and mistrust. What begins as an eerie investigation turns into a darkly comedic, emotionally charged exploration of connection and holiday spirit, with a surprisingly heartwarming ending and a twist somewhere along the way. So I forgot the X-Files had a Christmas episode until I researched for this video, and it's a really fun one. It was really unexpected to me because the tone was so different from the X-Files that I know, because it's been a while since I've seen most of these episodes. But it's a fun one and a weird one in a good way. I love that Lily Tomlin is in an episode of Tales from the Crypt in my book. You can do no wrong with Lily Tomlin. And I also love Ed Asner's voice so much that I genuinely wish he would narrate my life in the wintertime, because his voice is just the definition of Christmas cheer, and it just warms my heart. This is not a scary episode, and it's one that you can definitely enjoy out of canon, because it is a standalone episode and you won't get confused over the plot. And you can stream this episode on Hulu and Disney+.
What?
Well, she's wearing my outfit.
How embarrassing.
Yeah, well, you know what? He's wearing yours.
Supernatural Season 3, Episode 8, A Very Supernatural Christmas. Supernatural is a show that really can get away with a lot, and it has, from Sam and Dean getting stuck in an alternate universe where they're characters in various TV shows and changing channels, to Sam and Dean and Castiel getting transported into the animated world of Scooby-Doo in Scooby-Natural. God, I love this show. In this episode, the Winchester boys are hunting what they dub the Anti-Claus, a demonic entity that's ruining the holiday spirit in the worst way possible, by snatching people up to eat them later on. Their investigation leads them to an unlikely culprit, a pair of cheery suburban neighbors. Or are they? As the brothers navigate fake smiles, festive decor, and human sacrifice, we also get a glimpse of a bittersweet Christmas from their childhood. This episode is a lot of fun, and it has some moments that might bring a tear to your eye. It did me. And, honestly, any hour spent with the Winchester boys is a fine hour spent by me indeed. You can stream Supernatural on Netflix.
All is like bright rise.
Tales from the Darkside, Season 3, Episode 11, Seasons of Belief. Okay, so this next one is probably the most nostalgic to me out of all of these because I have such vivid, distinct memories of the first time I saw this episode as a kid. I forgot for the longest time it was Tales from the Darkside. I may have blocked it out of my memory because it traumatized me that much, but somehow I loved it still. Horror fans! All I could really remember was the ending, and I don't want to spoil anything in this video for any of the episodes, but needless to say, it caught me off guard. It was terrifying, and if you're a kid, it's very terrifying, and if you watch it, or you have watched it and you know what happens, you can understand why. So, bless the gods for Reddit. I typed in, what is the horror episode of TV with large hands and a window? If you know, you know. And needless to say, I got my answer, and that answer is The Grither. Anyway, if you're unfamiliar, Tales from the Darkside is a horror anthology series that aired on CBS from 1984 to 1988. In the episode Seasons of Belief, a family gathers on Christmas Eve for a cozy night of storytelling. But when the children beg for a scary tale, their parents weave a spine-chilling story together about the Grither, a monstrous creature that punishes those who dare to speak its name. As the story escalates, the family learns that some legends are better left untold. This episode is so interesting seeing as an adult because on one hand, I feel like the parents are torturing their children and scaring them so badly on the happiest day of the year for them. But on the other, it's probably something I would do as well. This episode also stars E.G. Marshall, who you might recognize in the Creepshow movie segment, They're Creeping Up on You. Now, the episode is cheesy, the acting isn't all amazing, but the Christmas vibe is strong here, and I highly recommend it. If only for that sinister little twist of an ending that turns out to be pretty darn dark. Tales from the Darkside is not available to stream either at the time of this recording, but you can rent it on Amazon.
What's that?
It was the... No, don't say his name! It wasn't Santa Claus.
A Creepshow Holiday Special, Season 1, Episode 8, Shapeshifters Anonymous. In Shapeshifters Anonymous, the holidays take a bizarre turn when a man named Robert joins Shapeshifters Anonymous after he discovers he might be a werewolf. The members of SA for short reveal that they are all different types of shapeshifters, from cheetahs to pigs to turtles, and the group is subsequently attacked by a fanatical cult of mall Santas led by the real Santa, who was blessed by God to kill all of the shapeshifters that turn their back on him. It's a whole thing. This episode is bonkers, and when you think that it can't get any weirder than it is, it does. I'll be honest, it's not my favorite episode on this list, but if you like your Christmas episodes silly, over the top, and tongue-in-cheek, this might be the Christmas episode for you. You can find this one on Shudder and AMC+.
Oh, shit.
Of course, I could not get through this list without talking about an episode from my all-time favorite TV show, a show that is more than a show to me. It was actually a lifeline to me and still continues to be, and that show is Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Season 3, Episode 10, Amends. In this episode, the vampire angel is haunted by visions of his past victims, driving him to the brink of despair. Buffy discovers that the apparitions are the work of the First Evil, an ancient force trying to manipulate Angel into taking his own life. As tensions rise, the episode explores themes of redemption, forgiveness, and inner strength. That's about as vague as I can get with the plot point for this episode, because it's not a standalone episode. If you go into it blindly, you will probably not know anything that's going on, really. So I don't recommend it as just as throw it on for Christmas. Unless you don't care about that, then by all means, please go ahead, because Buffy's amazing. And on that note, I do recommend watching Buffy on a whole, because whew, it's just a journey. You can watch Buffy on Tubi, Hulu, and Disney+.
I am the thing the darkness fears. You'll never see me, but I am everywhere. Every being, every thought, every drop of hate.
All right, I get it. You're evil. Do we have to chat about it all day?
So this entry is probably the most serious and the darkest of all the entries. I mean, it's American Horror Story. Briarcliff is already a scary place, but in Unholy Night, it gets a whole lot scarier when a man in a Santa suit, played by the brilliant Ian McShane, becomes unhinged and goes on a killing spree one Christmas night. Time has passed after he's committed to Briarcliff, but on this particular Christmas, he's let loose to wreak havoc on the asylum, all while Sister Jude faces her own demons as her past comes back to haunt her. It's a wild, bloody, and twisted take on a Christmas special, but all of the amazing performances in this episode make it a really captivating watch. That being said, this is also another one that you can't really go into blindly because there are so many pivotal plot points that are woven through this episode. So I highly suggest watching it from the start before you see this episode. But if you do want something that is standalone, there is an episode of American Horror Stories, Season 1. Santa Claus character is very similar. However, the other characters and the writing in this episode is incredibly insufferable. So I don't recommend it as something to watch that is amazing. But if you like, if you like your little hot messes like I do, you might like this one. And you can also find it on Hulu.
Well, Susie, none of it makes much sense, does it? Huh? Flying reindeers, shimmying down chimneys, every good Christian house in the world in one night, huh? Huh, they call me crazy.
Okay, this last one is a little bit of a cheat because it's not necessarily horror, but it is sci-fi, and some episodes, I would argue, are very horror-centric, and that is Series 8, Episode 13 of Doctor Who, Last Christmas. In Last Christmas, the Doctor and Clara find themselves trapped in a remote Arctic base under siege by terrifying alien creatures that feed on their dreams. With the help of a group of survivors and none other than Santa Claus himself, played charmingly by Nick Frost, they must figure out what's real and what's a deadly illusion. As the line between fantasy and reality blurs, the episode delivers heart-pounding suspense, emotional revelations, and a bittersweet holiday message. This episode is a little bit Alien, a little bit The Thing, all wrapped up in some Inception burrito. Also, there's something about Capaldi's Doctor that is inherently dark and sometimes a little bit scary, so he adds a little bit of extra layer of horror in his tenure as the Doctor. Also, now that I think about it, there are many horror-inspired episodes in his legacy. Is that the right word? I don't know. I'm really tired. Also, one more thing I want to add. I love the little Game of Thrones Easter egg they throw in at the end with the waif when she looks at her list. This is one of the darker Christmas specials of the Doctor Who universe, and it's not technically standalone, but I think you could get by watching it by knowing very little of what's going on in the world of Clara and the Doctor.
They're a bit like face huggers, aren't they?
Face huggers.
No, Alien. The horror movie, Alien.
There's a horror movie called Alien. That's really offensive. No wonder everyone keeps invading you.
Hi friends, it's future editor me, and this video is supposed to be released in a few hours, and I realized earlier tonight that there was one episode that I had written down in my notes to cover, but apparently I was a little too excited about this whole video on whole that I actually forgot to cover it in my initial recording. And it wasn't until Dead Right Horror Trivia Night tonight, when they did a round on Christmas anthologies and TV episodes, when I realized, oh crap, I forgot to include one episode that I was actually very excited to include, and that is Black Mirror's White Christmas. But Merry Christmas, you get 2 seconds of the intro of this video that I tried to record. From trivia, I forgot to include a segment. It's called White Christmas in Black Mirror. That's not gonna make the cut. Now that that's out of the way, let me break down White Christmas for you. It's the Black Mirror episode that's basically a blend of creepy tech, as always, psychological mind games, and holiday cheer gone very wrong. The story kicks off with two guys, Joe and Matt, stuck in an isolated cabin during a snowstorm. They start sharing their life stories, and it's clear right away that something just is a little bit off. Matt talks about his shady side hustle, where he trains artificial intelligent clones called cookies to basically be servants for their real-life counterparts. Then there's Joe, whose story takes a very dark turn. He spills about a tragic relationship and how things spiraled out of control after some intense emotional legal drama. As the layers of the story peel back, you realize that this isn't just a casual fireside chat. There's a sinister twist about why they are really in the cabin, and the way everything ties together is equal parts shocking and also quite gut-wrenching. I mean, this episode turns really dark. I was so excited to watch this episode for the first time. I actually didn't watch this when it first aired, and it was one that I kind of honestly forgot about until recently, and I thought, oh crap, now's the time to do it. Let's watch this one once and for all. I watched it. Not only am I in love with John Hamm, he is the most handsome man in the world, but with that dynamic of it primarily just being the two of them, it kind of reminded me of the episode with Josh Hartnett and Aaron Paul called Beyond the Sea. Not in terms of plot, but just the very intimate dynamic between the two of them, and then the rest of the cast kind of bleeds in as the story unfolds. I was not expecting this to go where it did, and like a lot of Black Mirror episodes, I had to definitely cleanse my palate after this one, but it is a great episode. I definitely think you should check this out, which you can on Netflix. All right, so there you have it. That is 8 Christmas specials of your favorite horror TV shows. What are some of your favorites? Are there any I didn't list that you love? Please comment down below because I would very much like to know what those are. And until next time, sweet screens and happy holidays.